Hello, everyone. Amazing welcome to you all from LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and my Limitless tribe. Happy Durgashkami to you. Navratras have been going on. I know all of you have been busy, worshipping Goddess Durga, calling her home, and, fasting for her. Today is the auspicious day when it's the day of Devi Mahagauri, and who is known to be granting the highest wisdom to whoever seeks for it. And what better day than to have this limitless show fall on this day where we open the layers of deep wisdom through questions and discussions and apply it in our own lives. So today is again a very, very special day. Today we have a guest who's, here in this education industry for almost like 14 plus years, and she has been certified by Education for Life, and she has been a teacher for a long time, and she has worked for a lot of non-profits and different schools and communities, organizations. So lots of experience in working with the children, the teens, the infants. And not only is she into the education field, but now she's also serving as the founding director of Conscious Families and Education for Life partner program. It's a partner program which offers connection, support, and inspiration to parents and families through groups, classes, coaching, and more. And this holistic consciousness based education for life approach, it was originated in India and is based on the teachings of Yogananda Paramhansa and his direct disciple Swami Kriyananda. So now Erin has been working, as I said, with children of all ages, all kinds of abilities, all kinds of backgrounds, and she has also been educating parents and families through various community and school-based programs in United States and the rural Costa Rica. And let's get on to welcoming her with a warm round of virtual applause, and let's get all the wisdom that she has to give us. Hey, Erin. Hello. Thank you for
Hi.
joining me on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such a joy.
It's a joy to have you here, Erin. So the first thing I always ask my, guests is please share your journey, where you began at, and where are you right now? What has the journey been like? Were there any challenges? How was it?
So, my journey towards conscious families, is that the question?
A journey of your life, and
Wow.
of course, how you, transformed all over, whatever period of time that you had, and where you are at right now.
Sure. Well, I grew up on the East Coast of the United States in a little tiny state called Rhode Island.
Mm-hmm.
And it was only recently that I moved to the West Coast as part of
Okay.
actually wanting to learn more about education for life and have
Mhm.
experience teaching in an education for life school. So
Right.
through the becoming a part of Ananda, becoming a disciple of Paramhansa Yogananda, deepening my meditation practice, becoming a Kriya yogi, all of that has just completely transformed my life. And
Wow.
part of that is becoming part of the Education for Life community and becoming an Education for Life teacher. And so, yeah, moving to the West Coast. I first was in Portland, Oregon, and then I moved down to Northern California, which is where I am now, at Ananda Village,
Mm-hmm.
which is
Mm-hmm.
where I live and serve. And my main focus is the Conscious Families program, but also just supporting locally, supporting families here in our community. So that's my main focus now. But yeah, it's been quite a journey. Lots of interesting stops along the way. I did spend some time in Costa Rica as well, as you mentioned, teaching English there. I lived there for 2 years with the
Mm-hmm.
host family, which was another transformative experience. But, the interesting thing is education and teaching and educating and working with parents and children and families
Mm-hmm.
has just always been sort of a part of that journey in some way or another. So
Wow.
it's always been a thread, and it's wonderful to be able to focus in that way now.
So, do you think that's your life purpose and that's the passion you have, and you are actually doing what you're meant to do?
It seems to be, I mean, sometimes people ask me like, oh, wouldn't you like to be doing this? Or what about, you used to do this? Or, I used to be a classroom teacher and now I'm sort of focused on creating this Conscious Families program. And, it's funny, I just don't think of it that way. Like, what else could I be doing? This is what's in front of me. And so of course, this is what I ought to be doing. That's my Dharma. Whatever's in front of you is your Dharma. So, it's a great blessing to have something that I feel so passionate about and that I enjoy and that I have skill to share. So, yeah.
Awesome. So what is conscious parenting and what is conscious families?
So Conscious Families, like you mentioned, is an Education for Life partner program. So it takes the Education for Life approach and helps to support and inspire and educate parents in how to take that approach, which has been used in our schools and by teachers around the world, how to bring that into your home life, how to apply that with our children. And essentially it is just a more conscious approach to parenting. So just having greater awareness around the choices that we're making, really approaching each child as an individual. And I think at the core of it, it's just bringing out the very best in ourselves, both as parents and in our children as well. That's really at the heart of it.
Right. Absolutely. So when you talk about families, conscious families, when I say conscious parenting, it's very clear to me that I'm talking about a parent and a child. But when I'm talking about conscious families, do you also include coaching to like husband and wife, or maybe on the whole family as a whole, like, parents and the child, both the parents and the child? Is it like a complete approach to the families, or it's more centric towards the parent and child relationship in that family?
That's a great question. Yeah, I think, the focus has been on, the parent-child relationship, but also, the whole home environment. I think it really can't be just that one relationship. Sometimes there's one parent that's more interested in a more conscious approach than the other. So, obviously I work with the people that are interested and that have energy for this, because it takes energy to do things more consciously, as we all know.
True.
But I think, it really is looking at the whole family and the whole, everybody's well-being and what everybody's needs are. And so, it really isn't just, it can be specific in that way, but it can also be, holistic and looking at everyone in the family for sure.
Wonderful. Of course. I mean, the environment is totally created by everyone who's a part of the family, and that whole environment is responsible for the child's growth and development. So I'm sure, I mean, a husband and wife's relationship is also a major part of that, which plays an integral role in bringing up the child. So I think somewhere,
I often use the analogy of a solar system, where there's all these planets and they're in a kind of arrangement, and there's a gravitational pull, that's kind of keeping everything in place.
Yes.
And really, when one of those planets changes in some way, it shifts the whole solar system.
Yes.
So, we don't necessarily need to go around trying to fix or change, our partner or our children or, all the other. When we work on ourselves and we, change our magnetism and our energy, right, that will automatically have an impact.
Yes. Correct. So now, even when we know what's better for us, since we are talking about, when we raise our energies and our consciousness and we change our magnetism. So even when we know sometimes what is better for us, we find it very, very challenging to change our habits. Very challenging. We know it, but still we are not able to apply it in our lives and transform ourselves. What is the reason we find it so difficult, and what can be tried to basically go ahead and start?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's something we, all of us that are trying to be more conscious, trying to improve ourselves, we come up against. I want to do better, but somehow these habits or these patterns that slow us down. We know better, but we don't always do better. Right. And there's there's a couple different things we can look at. I think working with and acknowledging and just where you're at and being really self-honest is super important. Noticing just where the energy is at and just taking the next right. So maybe I'm trying to.
Hi, Erin. Sorry, just interrupting you. I think I need to change my headphone.
Okay, no problem.
I have a little trouble here. Just give me a moment. I'm so sorry.
Sure.
Yes.
Better. Let's see if that's any better.
No.
No, not any better. No.
Sorry, guys. I recently have been having some issue on my laptop because of which I'm having some echo on my system. So I'm just trying to me for a minute, and I'm sure it will get resolved. Actually, today it's happening for the first time ever. The audience knows that, I have never faced this issue, but yeah, I mean, this is what it is today. Yeah,
Let's see. Is that going to help?
Yes.
Let's see. Is that any better? Do you think?
A little better. We will see. You go ahead.
Okay, I'll try.
Yeah.
So yeah, how to change our habits.
Yes.
We maybe know we want to change something, but how do we get there? How do we take that first step? And I think it's acknowledging where we are, and just accepting that, maybe we're not where we want to be. And then notice what is the next step, maybe not trying to jump from where we are to, the highest consciousness, the most expansive expression, but just, if I'm not eating well, maybe I'm not going to go out and eat salads every day, but like maybe I'm going to eat less of what's bad for me. I'm just going to take some small step to move in that direction. And that gets the energy going. It gets our motivation going. The other piece is looking at what does motivate you. What is your reason for wanting to change, and really being clear about that, because that will, I tell this to parents all the time, being really clear about what matters to you is going to inform your choices. And being conscious is all about making choices. And if we're not clear about why we're making those choices, it's really challenging, right? But if we have that clarity about what really matters, those choices are clear and strong. Not always easy, but it's easier to be strong in those choices.
Right. And they can start small. So yes, rather than eating more of salads, the junk that you're eating, you can reduce the quantity, and bit by bit, I think the habits can be formed. Trying everything together makes it much, much more difficult, because the brain says, no, stop, I can't do so many things. And but when we introduce small changes, I think the mind is more adaptable to choosing it. And then,
And sometimes it's a matter of getting the energy moving in a completely different way, because maybe I'm eating really poorly because I'm not getting enough sleep and I'm looking for energy, right? And so maybe I'm actually needing to get better sleep, but maybe I'm not sleeping because I'm not exercising enough. Find something that you feel motivated to give energy to, that helps you to get moving in some way. Maybe it's not physically, but even just something that lifts your energy, right? That brings a little more positive energy into your life. And that's going to help you make better choices overall.
Right. Wow. That was a great share, Erin. I think that helps. So they can also work on lifting up their energy, exalting it, and then try making better choices. So, what are the most crucial life skills that we must teach our children, according to you, Erin? You have been working with them for more than 14 years. So, what have you come across as, like, you can say maybe the top three most important life skills that every child should develop at a
Wow.
young age?
Wow, that's a great question. I'm probably going to be thinking about that for a while. What that answer really ought to be, if there are a top three. I think in general, um, with the education for life approach, it's really shifted what I think of as life skills. A lot of us think of things like, um, you know, knowing how to make money, how to, certain skills for a particular job, maybe our study skills, things like that, or just, how to cook as life skills. And those are all important things. But in education for life, when we talk about life skills, we're really talking about values and kind of those character traits that we're trying to develop. Things like
Mhm.
self-control, concentration, kindness, empathy,
Yes,
compassion. And so for me, those are the really key life skills. What are
right,
the top three for everyone? I really couldn't say, because that's what's beautiful about the education for life approach, is that it's very individualized. It's really, what do you need? What is your next step? What is going to help you to move towards being more expansive, um, towards being just a better version of yourself? And what each person needs, maybe I need to develop concentration, and that's what
right,
I need to focus on. Maybe you're needing to develop your heart quality and compassion, and maybe
yes,
that's what you need to focus on. And
right,
so in an education for life classroom, and especially in the home environment, we have this ability to really focus on each individual and
right,
nurture what it is, the qualities that they're needing to develop, and support them in that.
yes. I think yes, absolutely, because they can't be a top three because every person is unique, as is every child, and they have their own strengths, they have their own weaknesses, and what they will need
Mm-hmm.
to develop is very individualized according to their
Mm-hmm.
requirement. That's so true. If they are not so kind, they are not acting very kindly towards others, I think they really require to develop that kindness, that compassion.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, great.
Yeah. I mean, there are times where, maybe there's something that's important to me that I feel like, as a teacher or as a parent, you
Mhm.
want to develop a particular quality and you can focus on that. But it's also about, yeah, tuning into the needs of the individual, the needs of the group or the family,
Yes.
what's important to us and what's really going to
Yes,
support us,
yes,
now, and what quality to focus on. Yeah.
yes. Yeah, that actually, this actually gave me an insight. Also, another insight I got is that as a family, also we have certain values. Maybe your family value might be different than my family value, and I need my kids to
Mhm.
inculcate these particular things. They need to have these values because if they need to align to my family values. So I think again, it's very individualized according to the family.
Mhm.
That's so true.
Yeah. Yeah. It
When the
has to
parents, I
feel.
think, sit together and they decide, they communicate with
Mhm.
each other that this is our top three values that our children must have.
Mhm.
So these are the life
Yeah.
skills that we need to focus on.
And it's helpful to just be clear on what that is, even if it's not something that you're directly, trying to have them practice, but even just for you to be aware of what are those core values for you. And
Yes,
just, it helps us develop our awareness
yes,
of that, and how, when we focus on that and we're clear about, oh, this is what's important. Again, like I was saying before, it really informs our choices and the ways
yes,
that we act and the ways that we interact. Yeah.
right, right. So, did you find any difference in the happiness level of the children here at EFL now and all the other educational institutions that you have been a part of all your life? So, do you see
Hmm.
any such major differences that you have noticed?
Interesting question. I mean, my first thought is just, I mean, children are just joy. They're just so, where children are children, and there's a presence about them and a joyfulness no matter where they are. They're very resilient. But I think what I've noticed is just the way that the environment of the Education for Life school and the approach really supports and nurtures that joy, and doesn't have other priorities that we're trying to force onto, the children, where we're really seeing like, cultivating and supporting that natural enthusiasm is our number one priority, because that's where learning and growth happens.
Yes.
And so just finding ways to support that rather than trying to work against it with these other ideas about what we need to accomplish. And that's sort of the I think the difference I've seen between, my work with Education for Life and in other schools and other approaches is often there's just these sort of outside ideas about what we ought to be doing and what children need to know and how they need to behave. And sure, there's some of that's important, but really it's not focused on the child itself. It's focused on what the adult wants or what the government wants or what the school wants, or those outside expectations, and we forget completely about the child themselves. And so that's really the difference with the Education for Life approach. It's starting with the child. It's child-centered and looking at, okay, who are they becoming, how can I support that, and coming from that child-centered place.
Right, absolutely. As you said, the children are joy. I mean, they are joy personified, and they are very resilient no matter what. I mean, they are joyful, but at, I think, a certain period of time, if they are in a wrong environment, that starts showing out. No matter how resilient they are, the environment plays a big role, I think. So that was the whole reason for me asking this question, that because of the change in environment, do you see any such major differences between the children?
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely, I think, in our schools have been examples of children that have come in from other schools that, had kind of lost their enthusiasm or had kind of lost their joy for learning and things like that. Or maybe we're struggling socially or, having other challenges. And being in that environment where there's just this energy of support and encouragement and really care, that it does heal and it does bring back that joy and enthusiasm. And it is truly transformative. Absolutely.
Yes, true. What is a playful parenting and why is it important, Erin?
Playful parenting. Well, I did recently write a blog on that. You mentioned you took a look at my blog. Fun and play is such an important ingredient to all of our lives. For those of us that are wanting to continue learning and growing and being creative and using our imaginations, it seems like sort of like a kid-like quality to be playful or to have fun, or maybe it's something I do after work or just on the weekends. But to bring play or an element of play or playfulness or fun into everything we do, just it brings us into the present moment. It helps us to relax. It helps us to connect with each other more deeply. So these are things that are important and helpful and help us to actually accomplish more, right? And to maybe get new ideas about how to do things even. So it is really important to us as adults and I think especially parents, because it helps us connect to our children, and to really be in the moment with them and to remember, just that lightness, it brings our energy up, right? And it lightens the energy. Which, just how can that not help, right?
Right. In fact, me being a mother of a 10-year-old, child, I have seen from the beginning that no matter how much time I spend with her, if I spend that time in playing with her, being more playful, doing things, maybe some physical activities, actually, I should say, more than I might be sitting and reading a book with her, I might watch some movies with her, but nothing gives her as much joy as being physically playful with her. That's the time she really feels that my mother is actually spending this quality time with me, and she really cherishes that time. So I think they are bundles of
Mm.
energy, and they need to, kind of expend that energy which they have inside of them. And if as a rather, I mean, playing with other children always brings them joy, but if a parent does that with them, that's like a bonus. That's what
Hmm.
I have always
Yeah,
felt.
and there's, I think that playfulness, we maybe have some of us have maybe a narrow definition of what it means to play, right? And we kind of think, oh, I don't have time for that, or that's not for me to do. But we can bring an element of play, which is just, I don't know, just coming into a moment fresh, and just using our imagination, maybe even just being uh, joyful and playful in just our day-to-day activities. Even
Day-to-day
we can be
activities,
playful.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Make, cracking jokes in doing everything, and keeping
Hmm.
the situation very light in everything that we are
Hmm.
doing, rather than, yeah, I mean, dealing with
But
them
sometimes
seriously. Yeah.
yeah, it's helpful sometimes to make that time though. If our lives are, very busy, sometimes we do have to make that special time for play because otherwise it won't come in. And so it's
Yes.
it's helpful to give ourselves those breaks. But speaking about, your daughter really enjoying that play in physical play, it speaks to, there are different aspects of ourselves. There's a physical aspect, there's the feeling aspect, there's our intellect, and our willpower. And we're a combination of all of these. But we also, each of us kind of gravitates maybe more towards one or the other, where we find more joy, right, in
Yes.
a particular aspect. Some of
Right.
us love going for a run, and that feels really fun. To me, that does not sound fun at all. Picking up a good book,
Yes.
that sounds fun to me. Or, connecting with a friend. So, depending on, our nature, right? And we're always working to kind of balance that, but it's also helpful to know, like, what are those things that bring me joy? And how can
Yes.
I use that to help motivate myself, to help, nurture myself, and for my child as well? What are the things that bring them joy, right?
Yes.
And spark their joy, and to really use that to help, raise the energy and to help, keep them motivated and keep them engaged and connected. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I also know that you have been a yoga practitioner also, apart from being
Mm-hmm.
an educator. So, and you, even before you joined EFL, you really wanted to kind of merge both and make it more holistic. So, could you share your approach as to what exactly you wanted to bring on, and have you been successfully able to do it in with EFL?
Yeah. It's been quite a journey. Yeah. I was practicing yoga, especially hatha yoga, for quite a few years. And I was an educator at the same time. And I could just see, I think what I really saw was how helpful my yoga practice was for me as a teacher, as an individual, to help me just be a better version of myself,
Hmm.
and the skills that it helped me to develop. And I was seeing the need for that in the other teachers that I was working with and in the students that I was working with, to just have some of those resources and some of those life skills, really, how to calm myself, how to have self-control, just some of those basic skills. And so I was always looking for ways, how can I bring these together? Because it just seemed like this is what's needed, And I actually worked for a program that shared mindfulness and yoga techniques in public schools. So I would go into classrooms and share. And that was wonderful, but it was kind of just like a little drop. I would just go in for a little bit and give them a few tools. And I know it had an impact, especially on, certain students that were receptive. But the rest of the school day was not in that
Right.
environment, or was not holding that same approach.
Yes.
So it was right around that time that I found Education for Life, and the light bulb went off, and it was like, oh, this is it. Because this is really addressing the whole picture, because
Yes.
in traditional schooling, we're focusing on the intellect and occasionally the body, like, okay, we need to move, we need to feed you. But mostly the focus is on the intellect. And that just didn't seem balanced. We're so much more than that. And,
Right.
not every child is going to excel in that area. And so, yeah, finding for me personally, the balance that I found in the yoga approach to really nurture all aspects of myself, and then finding the education for life approach, which is based on the teachings of yoga. It's
Yes.
Raja Yoga essentially.
Yes. Yes.
And just seeing, oh, this is how we do it. This is the practical application of this in education and in just in daily life, really. I mean, yes, it's education for life, but it's education for life, for all of us, for all of our lives. So it's really not just for children. I have to always say that because, people think, oh, I don't have kids, it doesn't apply to me, but it really does. It's the teachings,
It does.
it's
We
the
all
same
are
teaching.
leading a life. Yeah.
Yeah,
The life
yeah.
is there
And we're
for
all learning and
everyone.
growing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. No doubt about it. Yeah. So, I mean, I want to ask you. I ask you from the children's perspective, but then, uh, how has your life changed since the time you shifted over to this EFL thing? As you said in the beginning, that you increased your meditation practices and a lot of other things. So, how has your life shifted? Were
Yeah.
there any breakthrough moments that you had?
Mm. Yeah. I mean, it's almost, I can barely put into words how much it's changed my life. I mean, I think it's a combination of, because Education for Life was created, like you said, based on the teachings of Yogananda, who is also my guru. And so these two things are very interrelated for me personally. But I mean, the Education for Life approach, it just, I think it's what I was saying earlier about, how we support the children. I received that also as a teacher. Being a part of the Education for Life school and the community, I also received that. I also received that nurturing and that, I think what sets this apart is that we're really looking to bring out the best. And so we're looking for that in everyone, in the students and in each other, in the teachers. And so it's not limited to, okay, we're using this approach on the kids. It's everywhere. It's how we're interacting with each other as a staff, with the other teachers. And just really feeling that they're looking to help me bring out the best in myself. And
Right.
just having, I don't know, it almost seems so simple, like, oh, well, you just got some support. That's nice. How did that change things? But it's like, that's really all most of us need is some encouragement and some support to feel like you can do it. You have it in you. This is who you are, and to just bring that forth, to have that space of support and love. Of course, you're going to become your very best self in that environment. So I've had the deep blessing to be in that environment, as part of the Education for Life community and both, also as the part of the Ananda community as well.
Amazing, amazing. Do you think, this is the question I want to ask you before I ask the next one. So, what to you is the definition of success? Because I think we were chatting that day and you were talking about, mostly in the world, there's a very narrow definition of success. So, what according to you is, what should we bring to the child as what success is
Yeah.
all about?
Yeah. It's interesting because it's a question I ask parents a lot. It's a kind of a key piece to look at because, there are many worldly definitions. There's many ways that success can be defined. And I think, for me, success is happiness. It's that joy. It's like what makes you feel more alive, what brings you into your center and helps you to just be the best version of yourself, the highest version of yourself. We might not always be at that highest version, but just moving towards that, to me, that's success. And just, there's a lot of things that we're told are success. And maybe they bring us some happiness for a time, getting a good job or a new house or, getting into a new relationship, something like that. And that can bring a level of happiness, but it's not lasting. And so I think for me, success is that lasting happiness, that unshakable joy, that is really who we are at our core. Yeah. So anything that brings you closer to that, I think is you're going in the right direction.
Absolutely, because there have been success stories where it ended up in suicide, and so we clearly know that does not necessarily give you joy. Maybe you got success, but you did not have fulfillment from inside, and that means that you are not successful.
And there's
Success without
been,
fulfillment. Yeah,
yeah, and the opposite is true too, where you hear these stories of people who have lost everything, where everything has gone wrong. And somehow they found it in them to maintain that joy, to persevere, right? To keep going, to enjoy their life no matter what. And I think to me, that's true success, to
that's
be
true
unshaken,
success.
to have that joy, no matter what the outward circumstances are, that's true success.
Right. So we have a question, Erin. We have Krishna Anubhav who asks us, how, when do you get to know that you have become the best version of yourself? What's the parameter? How do I measure myself?
Yeah. Well, that's a great question. Only you can really define that, I think. I don't think you can allow someone else to define that for you. So it will take some introspection. In Education for Life, Swami Kriyananda talks about maturity as the goal of education and of life, really. And he defines maturity as the ability to relate appropriately to realities other than your own. So this ability to expand beyond your own reality and relate to others appropriately. And I think so to me, the highest version of yourself is whatever's like a little more expansive than where you're at right now. And then when you get there, you're going to expand a little bit more. And when you get there, you're going to it's just infinite. You can expand
It's
infinitely.
infinite.
Who's to say,
Yes.
there's endless realities in the universe, when you really go far, beyond even just our little planet. There are infinite various realities for us to relate to. And so the opportunity to keep expanding. But yeah, I think measuring it, I think just checking in and for me, meditation is really helpful as a practice, just to kind of check in with where my own energy is at. And then doing that as you go through the day as well. Am I being a little kinder than I was yesterday? Am I, what's the measure you're going to use? I mean, that has to be for you individually, what you're going to choose. Am I being a little more patient? Can I be a little more generous? Can I think of others a little bit more than I think of myself? I think that's the direction we want to go when we're trying to expand and be the highest version of ourselves. Not just because it's like a nice thing to think of others, because that's where true happiness lies.
Lies.
With an
So
expansion
true.
of empathy, there is an expansion of happiness. And the ego doesn't want us to believe that. Like, it doesn't want to buy into that because it's like, yeah, but what about me? But I think we've all had experiences where we've done something for someone else and we didn't really need anything in return. It just felt good to do that. It just
Yes.
felt like the right thing to do. It just came from our
Yes.
heart. And we didn't even think twice about it, maybe. And I think that's sort of the direction we're going in when we're talking about being our best and highest self. So I hope that's
Beautiful.
helpful.
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, even before I think he asked this question, you were talking about that joy, that happiness, that if you're more joyful, if you're more happy, you
Yeah.
know that you're on the right path, you're on the right direction. But if
Yeah.
if worldly wise you are, doing things which are successful or being more successful in the material world, but that joy kind of still, eludes you,
Mm-hmm.
then I think you need to have a marker which tells you that
Yeah.
you need to check on something. And as you said, thinking about others always makes much more difference to your own happiness, for you more generous, for you more kind. Though you might think, what about me? As you said, your ego always tells you, what about me? But in reality, that's the expansion. Beautifully, I mean, I think you answered that. The Swami Kriyananda said that maturity is what finally you are looking
Mhm.
at, not only looking at your
Mhm.
own perspective, but the perspective of others. How much are you able to relate to that?
Mhm.
So I think
Mhm.
I think Krishna, it was beautifully answered. I hope that helps you in measuring your own, version.
You can look at also, what are the, sometimes there are things that make us more contractive, right? That maybe we worry more or we're more
Yes.
upset or we're feeling, you just feel your energy. Oh, I don't want to do this. I'm unwilling, right? Those are the things that are kind of taking us away from that expansion.
Yes.
Um, so we want to we want to avoid those, or and just how can I move towards that joy and towards that, maybe I'm not going to be the most joyful today. Maybe that's a bit much to take on.
Hmm.
But just what's the next step? How can I make a choice in that direction, right? And face, it's all directional, right? And face the right direction.
He says, thank you. I think he got his
Yeah.
answer. Thank you, Krishna.
Wonderful.
And also, I have been receiving feedback that my voice, I mean, my stream is having echoes. Are you able to hear any echoes, Erin?
No, it's coming through perfectly clear.
Perfectly clear. Even for me, it's perfectly clear. So I'm not sure. Some people are telling me that there are echoes in the stream. So then I can't help it.
Oh boy.
Sorry, guys, just bear with it today. I'll get my laptop checked because this is the first time it is happening. I was not aware that it's going to happen. So I'll definitely get it checked. It does not happen next time. All right, great. So another question I have for you, Erin, is what are some of the calming techniques, both for parents and the children?
Yeah, I mean, just take a deep breath. That's a great one.
That's
And
a
it's
great one.
always
Always,
available to you.
always, always available.
I mean, just you feel, if you just right now take a moment and just take a deeper breath, it automatically just it brings your energy up, right? And helps you to, then as you exhale, you just let that go. It's always available to us. So I think, having some sort of centering practice, whatever that might look like for you, that is a regular practice, is essential. Yes, there are things that you can do in the moment, but guess what? You're not going to have access to those if you're not making it a regular practice. It's going to
Yes.
be a lot harder, right, to access those calming techniques in a stressful moment. And I've seen that for myself. You don't just magically become a different person um, in that stressful moment. You're just whoever you are, and you've got whatever skills you've got in that moment. But I've seen what a transformation in my ability to work with children and to just maintain my center and patience and calmness because of my regular meditation practice. If I did nothing else, if I learned nothing else and all I did was just have that regular meditation practice, I think that really was the key piece. And I know the days that I didn't maybe give that the same attention, or I wasn't, didn't take that moment to center myself before the day began. I just didn't have access to that as I went through the day. Everything was I felt a little bit off, and the children respond to that. So yes, we can do, yoga and calming, teach children calming practices, breathing practices, and things like that. But I would say the number one thing is your own energy and your own ability to stay calm and centered, which, yes, we're not perfect and we're going to do the best that we can. But any effort that we can make, it's going to help us, and it will help them too, because we're creating that, we're talking about environment, and, the adults, the parents in a child's life are creating that environment for them. They're a large part of that. So our own energy has a huge impact. So yeah, I would say for me, it's a meditation practice. For some people, it's prayer or, a breathing practice, a yoga practice, spending time in nature, a journaling practice, whatever it is that helps you to take some quiet time to center yourself, to reflect, to come back to, that calm center. That's not in the moment, so it's like a daily practice, a regular
Yes.
practice at other times is really helps.
Everything helps only if you are consistent with that practice. If
Mhm.
on a
Yeah.
one-off day you try to use that technique, what you're saying, it does not work. It works only if you have been practicing it consistently. Because
Mhm.
end of the
Mhm.
day, when the situation happens, it's finally you just react with whoever you
Mhm.
are. At that moment, you cannot practice these techniques. So you need to
Mhm.
acquire these. I think they are skills again. With
Mhm.
consistent practice, you develop these skills, and then you are able to apply them whenever you want.
Mhm. Mhm. And yeah, having that regular practice also, gives you that space to kind of reflect, like, how did things go? Did that go the way that you're increasing your awareness really through those practices as well. It's not just, calming the emotions, but also developing your awareness of, ooh, that wasn't quite how I wanted that to go. And what would I do
Right.
differently next time? And then,
Mhm.
it gets easier and easier to have that awareness sooner and sooner in the moment
Mhm.
until maybe you're even having that awareness before you say something or before
Right.
you have that reaction.
Yeah.
But yeah, it
I
does
think it
take
becomes a part of your personality, a part of you,
time.
where you don't
Hmm.
need to even put an effort in doing it. In the
Hmm.
beginning, you will need to, and then it just comes
Hmm.
naturally.
Hmm. And that's where it's really helpful being in an environment like where other people are practicing that or making
Yes.
those efforts to
Yes.
cultivate those same qualities. Being in either some sort of community or just connecting with other friends that are trying to hold that same hold those same qualities is really helpful. I think that was one of the huge benefits of being a part of the Education for Life school is just being around other teachers that were wanting to teach in this more conscious way that were putting it into practice, and I could see that and I could be influenced by that. That was huge. Yeah.
Yes. Environment again. We are talking about the
Keeps
environment.
coming
It
back to
plays a
that.
huge role.
Yeah.
It can't vouch for that more. That's so true. So our last question for this round, Erin, is what according to you is limitlessness, and who
Ooh,
who are the limitless people in this world according to you?
what is limitlessness? I mean, we're all limitless. We just haven't realized it yet.
We have
So that's everybody.
true, true.
um, Limitlessness. I think it's. I mean, I think it's just our own perceptions. When we drop the perception that there are limits, we're limitless. When we tune into, it's what we've been talking about, just that highest version of ourselves, that unshakable joy, that is limitless. It really doesn't have boundaries. Anything is possible when you have that joy, when you have that energy, that higher energy in your consciousness and your heart. Anything's possible. Everything could happen to you. you know, Everything could be taken away. But if you have that joy, nothing can stop you. And I've seen examples of that both in my own community, in Yogananda's life, in Swami Kriyananda's life, what that really looks like to live in that. And I think that's what they came to share with us, is that we all have that potential. It's just awaiting our um, our consciousness and our awareness and our intention to awaken that.
Yes. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing this, Erin. I think,
Yeah.
it was amazing, amazing. Lot of wisdom from you. So we move on to the next round. It's called the lightning bolt
Mm-hmm.
round, where my questions will be short, or rather, I mean, I will be expecting just about a one word or one liner answers from you. So let's
Okay.
move on.
Okay.
Okay. So parent and child relationship is like,
The deepest, most profound bond and opportunity for growth.
wow. Most favorite part of your day is,
After my morning meditation, drinking a cup of tea.
wow, which you're doing right now. Nice. One value that you'll never compromise with.
Sincerity, just honesty. Yeah.
Beautiful. Leading a conscious life is not.
About being perfect, not about being perfect.
Nice. Which person has inspired you the most in life?
Hard to pick just one, but of course, my guru, Paramahansa Yogananda, comes to mind.
Beautiful. And he has the book, I think it's the world's most famous book, according to me, Autobiography of a Yogi. And I think, most anywhere I go, wherever I am, I always hear about this book. And in the beginning, I
Mm-hmm.
had read it one time, but not with so much of consciousness. And now I'm rereading it on my new Kindle
Powerful.
that I got. And I'm so happy, I'm able to carry it everywhere and read it whenever I want
Yeah.
to. So I've been doing
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Your most favorite and life changing book so far?
Well, of course, Autobiography of a Yogi. um, yeah, that's a long list. I love to read, so that's hard to pick just one. But yeah, autobiography and Swami Kriyananda's The New Path. His autobiography is also really profound. Yeah.
Wonderful. What conscious screen time is?
Ooh, conscious screen time. Making intentional choices based on your values, based on your highest values. Yeah.
So, does it mean, okay, so I'm going a little deeper in this. Uh,
Sure.
uh, if it is a conscious choice, then uh, all the duration that you are in front of the screen, maybe it's 1 hour in a day, you have allowed your child to be in front of the screen for an hour. Whatever content they are watching in that time, should they be conscious of that content, aligned
Yeah.
to the values they should inculcate in themselves, or it can be just randomly anything?
No, yeah, it's making conscious choice about all aspects of that. So whether it's the quantity, but also the quality,
Quality.
that both, that whatever you're choosing, it's a conscious choice that's in alignment with your highest values. So you have to get clear on what those are first, and then look at how does that relate to how much time, what types of devices, what types of programs, what types of content. Yeah. So it's there's a lot of choices involved in that for sure. Yeah.
So I
But
have
that's
then
why.
another question related to that. I'm,
Mhm.
diverging a little, but then if the parents' value is a little different from the child's, if the parent is always into self development mode, always looking at content which is life enhancing, thought enhancing, and raising the consciousness, but the child is always looking at entertainment, not cheap kind of entertainment, but yeah, looking at normal cartoons and normal stuff which generally kids watch, and they are like, what you always look at is very boring for me. I want to look at something which kind of entertains me. What can a parent do in that
Mhm.
situation?
It depends on how the content, what the impact of the content is on the child, whether it's having a negative impact on them, on their just on their energy and their the way that they're relating, because sometimes they'll be, where the content is affecting their personality, excuse me, their personality or something like that, and where that, really isn't in alignment with the family's values. Um, yeah, I think it can be a conversation at a certain age. So for younger children, I wouldn't encourage having a conversation, but as they're getting towards the preteen and teen years, you have to be super clear on what your values and your boundaries are, where there's like this is really important, what's important to you. But then it can also be a conversation where you're working together on it. So yeah, I think it's worth exploring. Why does that bother you? Why does that bother you that they're wanting to watch that? Is it important enough to say no? Does it go against what really you are valuing
Even if
enough.
it is not against the value, it's
Mhm.
not providing them anything enhancing. That's for
Mhm.
sure. Uh,
Mm.
that time might be just 1 hour. What they are spending is, according to the parent,
Yeah.
a worthless time. Where they are,
Mhm.
even if it's not affecting them negatively, but it's not affecting
Right.
them positively as well.
Right. So there's just a perception that it's not a good use of time, maybe
Yes,
not
yes,
a valuable use of time. Yeah, I mean, you might look at looking at other ways to encourage other types of activities so that there's more of a balance. So that, because what it sounds like is like, oh, it's important to me that my child engages in enriching activities, expand, things that are developing certain, and I don't feel that this particular show or whatever it is doing that. Okay,
right.
so am I going to focus on the show and what I don't want? Or am I going to focus on giving energy to what I do want, which is to provide my child with enriching opportunities and activities that engage them, right? So I would look more at that than what I don't want. And that'll kind of balance things out.
We have Kanchan Todi. She says, allow children playtime. They're children.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes,
we all need time to unwind. Um,
yes,
and it's looking at what's the right balance of those things and and focusing on what we do want, because sometimes with screen time we get overly focused on what we don't want, what we don't like, and then we're just focused on that, and it's nobody really it doesn't provide a really rich conversation when you're focused on that. But when you get clear on what it is that is important, then you can invite that in and look at the situation with that light.
yes, right. And the last one, the travel destination on your bucket list is,
India and
wow.
Italy.
I was waiting for
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So, yeah, yeah, please go ahead.
I'm looking forward to pilgrimage to both Italy and India at some point. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. So
Mhm.
maybe once you are here, we will all meet up and it will be a nice thing.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much, Erin. I think, I really enjoyed this conversation. It provided a lot of value to
Thank
everyone
you.
who's
It
watching
was
the
such a
show.
joy for me to be able to share. Yeah. Thank you for giving this opportunity and for having this wonderful show. What a great opportunity to connect in this way.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. And you have a great day ahead because it's night
Thanks.
for us and we will be
Yes.
off
Have
to
a good
sleep
night.
in some time.
Okay. Take care.
Great, Erin. Bye bye. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Hey, people. So, I hope you enjoyed the show as much as I did. There were loads of golden nuggets in the conversation, and I hope it helped you not only as a parent, but also as an individual who is looking to expand your own consciousness. And it's the time, as I said, it's Durga Pujo time in Bengal, and tomorrow is the end of Navratras. We have Nami tomorrow, and then we have the Dashera. So I wish you all a beautiful and an enlightening Dashera, and let all the evil in your own consciousness go away, and you take up all the higher consciousness things in your own life. So with that wish for you, I end this show. I'll come again next week, next Wednesday, with another amazing and phenomenal guest. Till then, take care and God bless you. Bye bye. And here we have Elisa. Thank you, Elisa, for joining us. And thank you. We had a wonderful chat, and I'll catch you again. Bye bye.